You're in a waiting room. No phone, nothing to read, just chairs, a water cooler that gurgles every 4 minutes, and a clock on the wall that you're now completely certain is broken. You check it. It's 2:17. You look away. You think about 3 different things. You look back. 2:18. 1 minute just took what felt like 11. Now think about the last time you were doing something you loved. Playing a game, watching a show you couldn't stop, talking to someone you didn't want to stop talking to. You looked up and 3 hours were gone. 3 hours. You didn't feel them leave. Same clock, same universe, same brain, completely different experience of time. Here's the thing. Your brain doesn't have a clock. Not a real one. Not the kind that just counts seconds the same way no matter what. What it has is something much weirder, and the waiting room versus the video game tells you everything about how it actually works. Every second of your life, your brain is doing something it almost never gets credit for. It's collecting information, not passively, actively. Constantly sampling the world around you. Sounds, sensations, thoughts, changes, and filing each one away. And here's the part that matters. It uses the density of those memories to reconstruct how long something took. When you're engaged in something, really locked in, your brain stops noticing the small stuff. It's focused. It's processing one stream of information deeply instead of 100 streams shallowly. The background hum of the room, the feeling of your chair, the sound of traffic outside, all of it gets filtered out. It doesn't make it into memory. So when you look back at 3 hours of a game you loved, your brain reaches for evidence of time passing, and there isn't much. So it concludes, that was short, that flew by. Now put yourself back in the waiting room. You're bored. Your brain has nothing to focus on, so it does what a brain without a job does. It wanders. It notices. The gurgle of the water cooler, the ticking, the guy across from you who keeps clearing his throat, the exact texture of the armrest, the clock. Every single one of those things makes it into memory. So when you look back at 20 minutes in that waiting room, your brain counts all that evidence, all those tiny filed moments, and it concludes, that was a very long time. You didn't experience more time. You collected more data points, and data points feel like time. In 2012, psychologist William Friedman and Mark Jansen at Oberlin College ran a study on exactly this. They had people estimate time intervals while performing tasks of different mental demands. The more attention a task required, the shorter participants thought it lasted. The less it required, the longer. Not because their brains were running faster or slower, because attention determines what gets encoded. And what gets encoded is what your brain uses to measure duration. They called it the attentional gate model, which is a very academic way of saying your brain charges for time by the memory. But there's a second mechanism, and this one is stranger. Your brain doesn't just measure time by looking backward, it also experiences it going forward, in the present moment. And that version of time perception depends on something completely different, dopamine. In the 1970s, neuroscientist Warren Meck at Princeton started experimenting with rats and time perception. He was manipulating their dopamine systems, sometimes blocking it, sometimes boosting it, and watching how their sense of timing changed. When he increased dopamine, the rats started overestimating time intervals. They acted as if more time had passed than actually had. When he decreased dopamine, they underestimated. Less time seemed to have passed than actually had. Dopamine, it turned out, was essentially setting the speed of the internal clock. More dopamine, clock runs fast. Everything feels longer in the moment. Less dopamine, clock runs slow. Time seems to compress. Now think about what happens in your brain when you're bored. Nothing interesting is happening. There's no reward coming. Dopamine is low. Clock runs slow. You sit in that waiting room, and each second stretches, because your internal clock is ticking faster than real time. Every real second feels like more than a second. Now think about what happens when you're playing a game you love, or deep in conversation, or watching something that's got you hooked. Dopamine is high. Your reward system is firing. The game keeps giving you small wins. The conversation keeps surprising you. Clock runs fast. Each real second passes before your internal clock finishes counting it. Time feels compressed, fast, gone before you noticed it starting. 2 mechanisms, same result. When you're bored, time feels slow, because you're collecting too many memories of nothing, and because your dopamine clock is ticking too loud. When you're absorbed, time flies, because you're barely collecting memories at all, and because your dopamine clock is running quiet. The soldiers who stormed Normandy Beach on June 6, 1944, reported something strange afterward. Time had stopped. Not slowed, stopped. Men reported watching bullets move, seeing the splash of water from an explosion like it was suspended. making decisions that should have taken seconds in what felt like full, deliberate minutes. Same thing happens to athletes in the zone, to drivers in the split second before a crash, to anyone who has ever been in genuine mortal danger. This is a third mechanism, and it's the most extreme version of the boredom effect. When your brain detects a threat, a real one, not a vague one, it does something dramatic. It floods the amygdala with signal, and it massively upregulates attention. Every single piece of incoming sensory information gets captured. Nothing is filtered out. The density of memory encoding goes through the roof. So when you look back at a 5-second near-miss car accident, your brain has 5 seconds of material and about 40 seconds worth of memory. It concludes, that lasted forever. David Eagleman at Stanford, one of the leading researchers on time perception, tested this directly in 2007. He dropped volunteers off a 150-foot platform into a safety net, a controlled freefall, and had them try to read numbers on a specially designed watch strapped to their wrists that changed too fast to read under normal circumstances. If time really slowed down during fear, they should have been able to read the numbers. They couldn't. What Eagleman found was that time doesn't actually slow down in the moment of fear. Your brain doesn't suddenly run faster. What happens is something subtler and weirder. The amygdala kicks in a secondary recording system that captures information with much higher resolution, more data per second. So afterward, when your memory replays the event, there's so much more material than usual that it feels like it took longer. The slowdown isn't real. It's a trick of the archive. Here's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable. If your subjective experience of time depends on how much you remember, and if you remember more when things are novel, surprising, or emotionally charged, then a life full of routine is a life that feels short. Think about being 7 years old. Everything was new. Every summer felt like it lasted for years. Every Christmas felt like it took forever to arrive. You had no template for anything, so everything got encoded. Every moment was a data point. Now think about last year. Can you even account for it? A lot of it probably blurs. The weeks that were identical to the weeks before them, the commutes, the routines, the days that left almost nothing in memory because nothing new happened. You didn't run out of time, you ran out of novelty. In 2019, neuroscientist Virginie van Wassenhove at Paris-Saclay University put it this way: the brain is not a clock, it's a compression algorithm. It throws away what's redundant, and a life of sameness is almost entirely redundant, which means the years that feel shortest are the years you were most comfortable, and the moments that feel longest, the boring ones, the frightening ones, the ones where you're sitting in a waiting room watching a clock, are the ones your brain is actually paying the most attention, which is its own kind of cruel joke. The moments you most want to speed through are the ones time slows down for. The moments you most want to freeze are the ones time evaporates from. In 1890, William James, the father of American psychology, wrote something in his Principles of Psychology that nobody has really improved on in 130 years. He wrote that in youth we may have an absolutely new experience every hour, while in later life the hours are filled with repetitions. So the young time is crowded, the old time bare and fast. In youth, hours are crowded. In age, bare and fast. He wrote that in 1890, with no neuroscience, no dopamine research, no fMRI, just watching people, and he got it exactly right. Your brain measures time in memories. The more you make, the longer life feels. The more you let blur by, the commutes, the routines, the identical Tuesdays, the faster it goes. Not because time is moving differently, because your brain decides how long something lasted based on what it kept. The waiting room felt like 11 minutes because you kept everything. The 3 hours of a game you loved felt like 30 minutes because you kept almost nothing. And the summers of your childhood felt endless because every single day was full of things your brain had never seen before and had no choice but to save. You still have that brain, same mechanism, same compression algorithm. It's still waiting to be surprised. The question is whether you give it anything worth keeping.